All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Commanders Film Room. It's week 6. We'll take a look at a little bit of a tough loss there to the Ravens. All in all, I think there was still good progress. Joining me today in the middle there is Nick Ackridge. At the very end is Mark Bullock, always breaking down the plays with the All 22 film. Nick, before we jump into the film, what was your biggest takeaway from the game Sunday?
I think they're legit. I think Washington, they proved what I wanted to see, at least from the offensive side, that it wasn't kind of a sort of fluky stuff over the past couple of weeks. But I didn't think it was, but they were competitive all the way through. I mean, I figured this defense would be a problem and would really, really struggle against the Ravens. But yeah, they proved that, they can actually stick around.
And Mark, it feels like Cliff took so much heat coming into this season, and maybe rightfully so. I don't know. We can get into that another time, but it feels like he has taken a lot of the naysayers to task because he's really evolved from what he was even just 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I think the criticisms people had of him were from his first few years in Arizona. I think that kind of just stuck with him for a little bit. That was his reputation. It just stuck with him. By the end of his time in Arizona, it wasn't the same stuff that he was running the first year or two. It wasn't the constant spread, constant attacking down the field, 4 wide receiver stuff. It had evolved. And it's just continued to evolve. And I think Kingsbury deserves a lot of credit for what they put together. I think you can see the fingerprints from Anthony Lynn and Brian Johnson and Bobby Johnson and all the offensive staff. You can see their fingerprints on it in different parts of the offense, but Kingsbury's done a nice job of putting it all together and delivering a really nice scheme. And yeah, so he deserves plenty of credit, and hopefully it will continue over the course of the season.
Nick, quickly before we dive into the film, I know we're going to do a little bit of the defense today. Will we find? Do you think this is more of a talent disparity thing?
Yeah. I mean, specifically on the defense, I think it's just, and like you said, we'll kind of touch on it here. They just don't have the guys right now, specifically on the back end, and I mean, it was pretty obvious to see that they just didn't match up. I mean, Zay Flowers had an all-time just first half against them, so they just don't have the guys right now. And we kind of expected that, but that kind of made it even more impressive that they were kind of able to hang in there and compete all the way pretty much till the end.
All right, let's click the video and get into it, Nick.
All right. Yeah. So defensive wise, like I kind of touched on, it's, they really didn't have the guys to really kind of match up with them man to man, but that's what you kind of want to do in order to stop, the Ravens run game. And so they came out, played a lot of single high at start. And it's something we've kind of seen from them in weeks past where they're going to play a lot of single high against these teams so they can stop the run. And they just hope that they can cover and man. And it just didn't really work. I mean, you can see here, all of these clips here are just straight up just man coverage reps where, guys they're just not winning in the secondary. And when you don't have a dominant pass rush, you can't really afford to be losing the way you are right now. And there's not much kind of X's and O's wise. Sometimes you just don't have the guys. And yeah, you can very clearly see that secondary is going to be a problem. It will continue to be a problem. And they did try to kind of, cover that up by playing a little bit more zone. But then when you play kind of some too high zone stuff, then you're left, stranded in the run game. So, they've been trying different ways to kind of deal with this issue that you can tell that they're pretty self-aware of the problem they have in the secondary. They know that, they don't have the guys to really match up with certain teams. And so they've tried different ways to do it. I mean, in the Bengals game, they played a lot more too high because they knew they were never going to be able to play with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They're a lot more too high there. And so they figured their kind of only hope in the run or against the Ravens was, kind of stop the run. But Lamar tore him up as a passer. And I've talked a lot about Lamar as a passer. I think he's very, very underrated in terms of what he can do from in the pocket. And he kind of proved that here.
Is this something a lot of people mentioned in the comments when Mark asked was like, is this something they can fix in season? Like, would you be willing to part with assets to get a corner at this point where a DN that the pass rush isn't getting better, certainly with the recent injuries? Or do we just kind of have to wear it this year, you think?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, I think if you can go out and get somebody for the right price, maybe not, spend big on somebody, I think you should go do it. But I think we all kind of understood that this year might not really be the year. I think they've really kind of the expectations were not, be 4-2 at this point. I think you have a couple more weeks to kind of see where you really stand, and if it continues to be a massive problem, then I think you could kind of go all in, especially in a weaker NFC East and a little bit of a weak NFC. You got the two top teams with the Niners and Lions up there, but I didn't think this team would be a team that would be buying at the deadline. I know they don't really do that much at the deadline in the NFL, but I think you definitely have to look because you just don't really have the answers right now. I mean, Sanderstill and Igbenogany have really been your best corners. Sanderstill's kind of really started to turn it around recently. And that's just, it's going to be a problem when you're depending on a second round rookie and a veteran guys kind of jump from team to team.
Were you surprised that Sanderstill was able to move outside kind of that easily? Because it's quite impressive, really. They drafted him play nickel and then kind of were forced to move him outside.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, but he's always kind of just been like a naturally good athlete. He started as a wide receiver at Michigan, so he can kind of seamlessly transition to stuff. I thought he was a great nickel corner at Michigan. So, yeah, I was shocked when they had him out there. I mean, I remember watching the Bengals game and was very confused why he was one-on-one with Jamar Chase. It didn't go too well, but he has definitely kind of turned it around recently. He's played a little bit better. You saw the pick that he got. It was kind of a lucky pick that kind of fell into his hands, but there were some really good kind of reps in man coverage there. But that was the man coverage version of it. I've got some other stuff looking at zone coverage here. So, like I said, they kind of wanted to, play this man coverage, this single high stuff. And we saw in man coverage it didn't really work. But, especially if you're going to switch to zone, you can't have mistakes like they had. And here's just one of them. This isn't man coverage. It's just going to be a kind of a classic cover 3 here where you got your deep safety, deep third, underneath. You got 4 underneath guys here. Play action, again, is going to influence the linebackers. They're going to bite heavily on any Ravens play action. It's just going to naturally how that goes. And then it leaves a nice massive void in the middle of the field where, no one's within 10 yards of the receiver. And that just kind of can't happen if you are going to be willing to play zone coverage. And just a little bit of a bust here by Frankie Luvu. You don't typically want 2 underneath guys within an arm length of each other. He's going to need to, once he recognizes that it's a play action, he's going to need to kind of turn around and get back and get some depth in the zone. Tough to do against the Ravens offense, but he gets kind of caught up there on Mark Andrews. And then you got a wide open receiver for an easy gain, a large gain at that.
Is this the best offense they'll face all year?
I would hope so. I mean, this offense was incredible. I mean, I'll get to it when we kind of touch on the run game stuff that the Ravens did, but Todd Monken is really, really good at this stuff. Really good at getting numbers advantages in the passing game, running game, all of that. And it's just so hard to defend them. And then when you have Lamar that can do this from the pocket, but then he can also, is probably one of the most athletic players in the NFL. It's, it will probably be the best offense they face. I mean, the Bucs were pretty good week 1, but the Ravens are pretty incredible. They're
going to stand in line to make Todd Monken a head coach next year, I have a feeling.
Yeah, they're going to try to keep him at all costs here. Now back down by the red zone again. You go back to this too high kind of look here. You can't have coverage busts in these situations. You just can't make mistakes against this team. They're going to make you pay. And what they end up running here, it's kind of a quarters coverage, but down in the red zone, rules kind of change a little bit. Typically in your quarters coverage, you'll have these 4 deep guys, and they're kind of matching up based on different routes. But the way they play it here is usually you kind of have your outside corner playing some hard outside leverage. He's going to sort of protect the flats, but also kind of make sure that nothing kind of gets in this hole here. Same thing down here. But the big problem here is Percy Butler on this play. And when you have a 3-by-1 look, essentially, this backside safety needs to really key on this number 3 receiver. What we mean by number 3 is he's 1, he's 2, he's 3. So he's going to be looking at this number 3 receiver, and that might not just be Andrews. That might be likely coming across this way. That might even be someone else coming across this way. But he needs to have eyes on that to what they call poach that backside 3-by-1. So he's going to be looking to the backside 3-by-1 so he can, cover. Essentially, he's going to kind of be a middle of the field player because these 2 guys are going to be responsible for the 1 and 2 receivers on this side that will be kind of running these sorts of routes here. And then as you can sort of see, he gets kind of caught up, guard nobody. Mark Andrews is open up the seam. Great ball by Lamar, and you're just never going to kind of come back from that. So, at this point, when you have for Butler, what he's kind of reading here is these 2 guys. But once this receiver, this wide receiver, runs shallow here, he needs to start looking to the backside of this of the offense here, because once he runs shallow, this is no longer when he runs shallow, it's no longer his responsibility. It's no longer his responsibility. And he should know that St. Juice will have something out of the flat here. These underneath defenders should be able to deal with this crosser here. So he needs to get his eyes to this backside of this concept. He does not. And yeah, you've got Andrews wide open. Maybe you could ask Bobby Wagner to get a little bit more depth, but again, he's going to be worried about this crosser here, and he's expecting his safety to be ready for this. You got these 2 guys playing this fine. They're both in a good position. And you just got Percy Butler a little bit late. So one of the few coverage busts they had wasn't much because, again, they didn't play too much zone. But when you do play zone, you can't afford to make mistakes like this because, like I said, the Ravens and Lamar Jackson will make you pay, and they definitely did.
Percy Butler's the 3rd safety on these 3 safety looks. How has he been? I know the previous staff was real high on him. I mean, the previous staff was high on a lot of guys.
That's not
I understand that.
Really not the greatest
Fair enough.
sign of encouragement, but he's been okay. I mean, I think all the safeties have been okay. I don't think they've been anything special. I don't think they've been anything terrible. Jeremy Chin's had some rough moments here at times. Quan Martin's had some rough moments. He's also had some great plays. So I don't think any of the safeties are really kind of your big problems right now. I think you're really kind of dealing with a cornerback issue more so than anything else. Sure, you would like them to kind of make a little bit some more plays, but I think they've been just kind of okay. But that was the coverage issues. Then I just kind of wanted to touch on the run game stuff. So the Ravens kind of, really, kind of dominated through the air in the first half. We saw that with Zay Flowers' stat line of over 100 yards in the first half. And Washington was, obviously trying to try to stop that coming out in the second half. And so that's kind of when the Ravens run game really opened up. And they were able to kind of, really go to town on Washington's defensive line here. And just some good designs that it's just going to be tough to stop. I mean, you got what they're going to run here is pin pull, but this time with the quarterback. We saw Washington do this with Jaden Daniels down by the goal line where you're going to have someone pin, he's going to pull, and you add the quarterback in, and you've got a numbers advantage. They have a 3 wide receiver look over to this other side, so Bobby Wagner is going to clear out because he needs to get over there. So now they're going to run this way, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 blockers on 1, 2, 3, 4 guys. It's just going to be even if everyone's right in their fit, it's just going to be tough to kind of stop this run. And again, you got everyone, they're in their right fit. They're where they're supposed to be. These guys need to stay outside, funnel this back in but you don't have anyone back in because of the 3 wide receiver set on the other side. So now you're just screwed. And the Ravens kind of really took advantage of this pin pull stuff. They ran it a ton, and specifically to the short side of the field and the side of the field where they either didn't have any receivers or just had one solo receiver, which is essentially a tight end on this play. He's in a wide receiver stance, but Mark Andrews is essentially just a tight end. Pin here on Frankie Luvu. Always going to be tough to beat this block. Both of these guys are going to fit outside, and you don't have anybody because your linebacker's all the way on the other side of the field. Now Lamar's off to run, and you're just screwed.
It feels like the reigning MVP is even better this year.
Yeah. I wrote an article on him last week when he kind of torched the Bengals that he's doing some stuff from inside the pocket that is just great right now. And then you just add the wheels. It's, again, like you said, it's going to be one of the toughest offenses to stop. So, again, same exact run concept here. This time we're just, instead of having a quarterback pin pull, we're adding a fullback in. So, again, you're still going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 blockers on 1, 2, 3, and I believe there's a corner out here, 4. So that's what you have. It's going to be tough to block this even if you're right, or tough to fit this even if you are right. You got down on Frankie Luvu. We're going down, pull outside. St. Juste is screwed here against Ricard. There's nothing he can do other than funnel it back inside. Luvu does a decent job to kind of get over the top. Now you got to make the tackle. Tough to do with Derrick Henry stiff arm. He misses that tackle, and now you got another easy first down. But it's just a good design. I mean, you would expect them to kind of run this way when you've got 2 tight ends over here. But again, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys here on 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 5, 6. So again, I mean, it's going to be tough to stop this run game. And when you don't have the numbers to stop it, it makes it even tougher. And Derrick Henry out in space is still going to get it done every single time.
He's going to go for 2,000 yards this year.
I wouldn't doubt it. Would not doubt it. So next play here, this is another fun design. It's not pin pull, but this is the one of Derrick Henry's touch. I think this is the second one he had here. Just a fun design. So when you get this jet motion, when they're playing this kind of zone coverage, you're going to have the way they're going to react to this is they're going to rotate their safeties. So now you've got safeties rotating over. He's going to play here. He's going to become a deep safety. But what they do after the snap is they send a split block across the formation. And when you get a split flow, you're going to need your linebackers all to push over a gap. So again, you've got one guy coming this way, one guy, and then he's going to come the other way post snap. And this is why I think linebacker is such a hard position to play, because you've got this jet motion that you have to react to. You see Luvu has to step to that. And then you've got this split flow. He needs to be back over in this gap. And now he's just kind of screwed and completely out of position. So what he should be doing again, and this is Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner is the best at this. It looks like Wagner's kind of wrong here in what gap he's supposed to be doing, but he kind of slow plays this a little bit, and then he's going to fall back a gap to where he's supposed to be. You would like Luvu to be a little less aggressive here, kind of slow play it, fall back into this gap. But again, Frankie Luvu is going to do everything at 100 miles per hour. A little too aggressive here. You get Johnny Newton washed down a little bit, but again, he's in his gap. You got the cut block coming through, taking out Obata. Pretty easy touchdown. And Sanders still's got 0 chance here to make this play. So just another cool design, but
like you said, it's brutal because the whole thing is moving the other direction, and a man that big shouldn't be able to slide back to the other side of the field that easily. But
it's the way teams want zone to hit. You get your whole offense and your whole defense flowing one way. I highlighted it a couple weeks ago with Washington's split flow zone, but you get your whole offense and your whole defense running this other way, and then he cuts back this way, and you've got one-on-one with the corner, and it's just tough to defend. I mean, this is a really cool sort of concept. I love when teams do this. When you add that motion and they get them flowing back the other way, it just makes it so hard to defend as a linebacker. So last few here, more pin pull stuff. Won't go into great detail on this one just because, again, it is the same thing. They were killing Washington with this exact concept. Again, you got pin pull here. He's going to pin down. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 defenders on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4 blockers. Again, even if you're right on this play, you're going to be wrong. So you got them all pinned down. He's going to force that outside. Decent job by Luva to even get there and make the tackle. But again, you're making the tackle at 7, 8 yards down the field. It's going to be tough. Rough play here from Johnny Newton. He's going to need to – he can't get reached by this center. And this is – Tyler Linderbaum's one of the best. It's a hell of a block to get him on that and turn him completely the other way around. But, again, just a tough play overall for the defense to kind of recover. And when you just don't have the numbers advantage, it's gonna be a problem. So I believe this is the last one. And, again, it's another pin pull where you have 1, 2, 3, 4 blockers, 1, 2, 3, 4 defenders. You're going to be wrong. Even if you play it well, Wagner gets tripped. And then you got big Derrick Henry to almost essentially seal the game. That was the first down with a couple minutes left. And yeah, another.
Why do they have 6 people lined up on the other side?
Again, it's a numbers game because you got to account for the 2 tight ends over here. So you have to be. You got to be in this gap. You got to be in this gap. And so you want to. They overplayed that one side. It's probably a game plan thing. And again, Ravens kind of came back with this in the second half. They didn't run this as much in the first half. I think it got stopped on the first time they did it. But in the second half, they ran it to the opposite side more, I think. And yeah, you can just see Washington is just kind of overloaded to one side. And so it's a game plan thing. I mean, it's tough to kind of fix this in game, but I think the Ravens did a really good job to exploit that. And again, a not so great rep here from Johnny Newton, getting again reached by Linderbaum. Just you can't get reached on these sorts of plays, and Linderbaum's great, but can't get reached, causes a trip on Bobby Wagner, and then you got St. Juste on Derrick Henry, which again doesn't stand a chance. So
they're gonna need Newton to be every bit of the second round pick with Allen out the rest of the year.
Yep, that's all I got. That's on the defense. It was not great, but
it wasn't it's not a scheme thing though. You think it's more, before we get to the offense with Mark, this is more, the X's and O's and all the Joes, as they say, but
yeah, the Jimmies and Joes.
Yeah,
it's a bit of both.
St. Juste is not supposed to be playing CB1, right? And I guess he's still not technically, but like there's just so many guys they don't have playing in the right spots, right?
Yeah, and you're always going to be at a disadvantage with your numbers because of that. You can't trust these guys. Dan Quinn, he wants to play a lot of man coverage. He just does. He wants to play single high. He wants to play man coverage, and you just don't have that ability right now. So they have to kind of combat that in different ways, and they're still trying to figure it out. But it's just going to be tough if you don't have the guys on the back end. I mean, it's a lot easier when he's got Stephon Gilmore, Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland as corners. You just don't have that this year, and so I think that's going to be the biggest position that they need to improve.
All right, Mark. The people came to see this high flying.
No one cares about defense in the run game. It's all about Jaden Daniels.
Well, yeah, I'll see if I can speed through everything I've got because I've got tons of stuff. But we'll start with a bit of Jaden Daniels, and you can appreciate some of the designs of some of these things. But I thought the offense took a little bit to get into the game. The first 3 drives they were pretty heavy in 11 personnel, and they were struggling to really get going. And Cliff, I think, identified that and adjusted, and this was one of the first plays that really got them going. And you can see here it's 12 personnel, but we've actually got Terry McLaurin acting as the tight end, and you've got Zach Ertz playing where McLaurin would normally play. But you've got John Bates here at tight end and Zach Ertz out here. And then so the idea here is you get McLaurin acting as a tight end, and he's going to motion, and they're going to run essentially what is known as sprint right option. Daniels is going to take off as soon as the ball is snapped, and then you're going to have McLaurin turn his motion into a wheel route and then break it off, and Noah Brown's going to spot up inside. And so we'll run that on, and you'll see McLaurin goes in motion, turns that into the wheel route. Daniels throws on the run. As he gets out here, McLaurin breaks off nicely. Both defenders are kind of worried about him, and that leaves Noah Brown open in the middle of the field. Daniels does a really nice job here. Kyle Hamilton is closing in on him quick, and he takes a hit to deliver this ball. It's a little bit high, but you can't be picky when you're throwing on the. Yeah, it was a little bit fortunate for Hamilton that he doesn't get called for that. It's kind of a helmet-to-helmet sort of situation, but with that in mind, it's a pretty good throw. A little bit high, as I say, but when you're getting smashed like that, delivering any sort of accurate ball is pretty good. And just a really nice throw, good play design, and sort of got them going. Then later in the drive, we have this 3rd and 6 play, and this is all about Daniels being fantastic with timing and anticipation. So down here, you've got Terry McLaurin isolated out to the left. He's just going to run a little comeback, and you'll see here as we run this through, Daniels begins this throwing motion so early. He's hitting his back, top of his drop here, and now his hands have separated, so he's beginning his throwing motion. You can see down here, McLaurin has not even begun to make his break. And that is how early Daniels is beginning his throwing motion. That's how much he's trusting McLaurin to get open. And it's great anticipation. And by the time the ball's coming out, McLaurin still isn't into his break fully. And McLaurin doesn't actually get a hell of a lot of separation here. But because Daniels anticipates this so well and gets the ball out so early, he's able to, and then on top of that, he places it so well. You'll see from this little bit here, he places it low and outside where only McLaurin is able to get on the ball. The defender has no chance. So it's such good placement along with being so well anticipated. So it's just a great throw on 3rd and 6. It's almost undefendable because that corner is right there, and McLaurin makes a nice adjustment. Now, you'll notice this is a clip from week 2 against the Giants, and it will have relevance, I promise. So the first touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin in the Ravens game was basically this exact play from week 2, and they tried it and they couldn't quite hit it in week 2. You've got Zacchaeus down here. He runs a little pivot route, and his whole job is to try to occupy this safety, get him to bite up, and clear out the void back here. And what you have is, on this play, it's McLaurin running a dig, and you've got Dyami Brown running this deep over. So as we run this on, the motion out Zach Ertz, he's kind of irrelevant at this point. You can see Zacchaeus breaks inside. He's trying to grab the attention of this safety. As he breaks outside, he does get the attention of the safety, and they want to layer this ball over the top of that safety to Dyami Brown. Unfortunately, Thibodeau beats Coleman and is about to lay a big hit on Jayden Daniels, so he can't really set his feet and deliver the throw as he'd like to, and it just sails just slightly out of bounds. You'll see it here. Thibodeau gets a hit on him, and he can't really place it as he'd like to, and just misses. But it's a nice concept. So a few weeks later, they come back to it. They get to it slightly differently. You got a slightly different alignment, and this time McLaurin's the guy that's going to motion in, and he's going to run that deep over. It's still Zacchaeus out here running this little whip route, and this time it's Ertz running the dig. But you'll see again, this time Jayden Daniels does a nice job of selling this and forcing that safety to bite up to give himself a little bit more room here. So Daniels gets himself aligned and set, looking straight at Zacchaeus, and he even throws a little pump fake, and that gets the safety to bite more heavily towards Zacchaeus and creates a lot more space back here for Terry McLaurin. So Jayden Daniels does a nice job, resets, comes back inside, has more space to work down here. Protection's a lot better, so he can take his time and deliver a nice throw. And it's a very nice throw. The end zone angle is a better one of just how nice of a throw it is. So we come back to it. Pump fake, get that safety to bite up. He does a pretty nice job of trying to get back to this, but it's just a great throw. McLaurin makes a nice catch, 2 feet down, touchdown. So I thought that was pretty cool. It was a play they had shown a few weeks ago, and it didn't quite hit, but they came back to it because it's a nice concept, and it worked out. Now this one, I think, was, in my opinion, the best throw of the game from Daniels. Now he had a few you could pick from, but this was my choice of it. It's 3rd and 10 down in the red zone. You're down by, I think, 2 scores at this point. You need to convert and score on this drive. So you run Luke McCaffrey up the seam. He's just there to occupy the 2 safeties. You got Terry McLaurin on this little whip route. Again, just kind of trying to occupy coverage, and that is trying to open up this void in the middle of the field for Zach Ertz on a basic cross. And as we run this through, you'll see we get to the top of Daniel's drop here, and you can see that both safeties have eyes on Luke McCaffrey. He is going to keep running through the back of the end zone and take both safeties out of the way. You got McLaurin just breaking back outside here. So this linebacker actually does a really nice job on this play. But most linebackers would have been baited to this and step up and open up a nice big void for Zach Ertz on that route behind him. Unfortunately, this is Roquan Smith, so he does a really nice job pivoting back out of this. But Daniels, under pressure here from Madubuike, kind of has no option but to try to deliver this throw. And you can see he's already begun his throwing motion, and that ball is basically coming out at this point. And you can see Zach Ertz is not anywhere near clear of Roquan Smith. But he delivers an absolute dart over the middle, and the end zone angle is just amazing.
And then No Zach strikes again.
Yeah, I don't know how he doesn't score. But you can see here, this is balls coming back, top of his drop and throw motion, and you can see Ertz is nowhere near cleared Roquan Smith, and Smith does a really nice job getting back in, as I say. But that ball is just perfectly placed. You cannot get it better than that. And now how, as Nick said, how Zach Ertz doesn't just turn this up the field and walk into the end zone for a touchdown, I don't know why he takes 4 more steps along here and runs into this guy.
When I first heard that nickname, No Yak Zach, I was like, there's no way he can't actually get yak. And then watching him play over and over again, it's like, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. But yeah, that was, I mean, if you can go back and kind of freeze it when he is about to throw it, I mean, like this is the type of stuff that this is the type of throw that you see someone like Matt Stafford make all the time, where he knows what window is going to be open before it's there. And, this is Jayden Daniels in his 6th ever start. I mean, that like this type of stuff is so impressive. And it was a question coming out of college, but I mean, it turns out that the reason that was a question is just because he didn't need to, not that he couldn't, which is always kind of tough to figure out, but he didn't need to do this. And now that he needs to, he can. And yeah, that was probably my favorite throw of the season.
What's been your biggest surprise about Jayden Daniels so far, Mark?
I think just the amount of control that he has of the offense, because he's running everything. Like they don't huddle, and so everything's going through hand signals. And yes, Cliff is still able to talk to him through the headset and call plays, but he's running everything, and they'll have hand signals for everything, and he's getting everyone aligned. And sometimes it looks a little bit messy, but the amount that they're doing without huddling is really impressive. And for a guy, a 6-star, a rookie quarterback to have that much command is outstanding, really. And it speaks to both his football intelligence, but also the system being put into place that enables him to have that much command in his first year is really impressive.
Do they change those hand signals weekly?
Not necessarily. I couldn't tell you whether they do or not, but they generally. Some teams do. Some teams are more paranoid about that kind of thing than others, and teams that run a lot of up-tempo, no-huddle stuff that rely on those hand signals, it's kind of a catch-22 because you want to change the signals to make sure nobody's catching on to what you're doing, but at the same time, if you are running no-huddle the entire time, it's like trying to change your entire playbook every week. You're trying to teach a new language, and it'd be very easy by week 6 to be like, oh wait, this hand signal was 2 weeks ago it was a vertical route, and now it's a screen. It's like, it could get confusing. So I can't imagine they're changing everything, but they probably have some basic stuff that they do change. So yeah, that was one of the most impressive throws. A lot of people point to this one as more impressive. This one wasn't as impressive. This is still a very, very good throw. But the other one was a better throw for me. But,
yeah. Did you hear Terry's description of this play?
Yes. Okay. I was about to get to that. So when I first, no, you're good. When I first saw this, I thought this was just a pure double move, and I thought McLaurin and I thought that the corner bit so heavily on it that Daniels was surprised by it, and that's why he was late to the throw. But as it turned out, as Nick alluded to, that McLaurin explained that this was just a slant that was called, but before the play, McLaurin kind of told Daniels, "Hey, look, if this guy plays so heavily inside, I'm going to break this onto a fade, and just trust me with it." And Jaden does. So you can see they start running this slant right here, and the corner just goes straight away inside leverage, and he's saying, "I'm not letting you beat me on this slant." Now, Jaden Daniels is probably expecting McLaurin to at least get a few steps into the slant before having to break this off, and that's why he gets himself loaded and is ready to throw that instantly. But by the time he's ready to throw it, McLaurin's already breaking outside because this defender is so heavily inside leverage. So that causes Daniels to have to reset to deliver this throw. And someone asked me on Twitter that why was this ball not thrown to the back corner of the end zone? Well, this is why, because he was ready to throw that slant immediately. And because a route was adjusted so quickly, he has to pull this down and reset. You can see he pulls that back down, resets, and by the time he's reset, he can see this corner is trying to recover, but he's not looking back at Daniels. He's looking at McLaurin. So he knows if he lofts this to the back corner of the end zone, that corner has a chance to make up ground and break this up. So instead of just lofting into the back corner of the end zone where the corner is expecting it, he goes to McLaurin's back shoulder. And you can see he delivers a really nice ball to the back shoulder here, and McLaurin makes a fantastic adjustment. I can't speak highly enough of how good of an adjustment this is from McLaurin, and I think you see it slightly better from this end zone angle. You can see that he's diving back for this, and the corner recovers about as best as you could recover from this, and McLaurin just goes and makes an outstanding catch down there. So for me, it was a great play. I think the previous play was a better throw, but
yeah, I remember watching that live, and I was so confused as to why he's like sort of pump faking, and the ball, it looked like it kind of fluttered a little bit, but it makes sense when you hear Terry's explanation of it, and like them to kind of be on that same page already is pretty cool. And then, I mean, once the ball's kind of in there, you always kind of know Terry's going to somehow come down with it with his forearm catches.
Yeah, I will never understand how his catching technique has been this successful, but it's working for him, so we're not going to complain. That was a lot of that was some of the Jaden Daniels highlights. I thought we'd get into a little bit of what Cliff's doing really well as well, and that will also include some very nice throws from Jaden Daniels, which we'll see. But this one was the first one that I thought was really nice. This was on, I think it was the opening drive, 3rd and 2. So he goes to his 12 personnel group. Now, the 12 personnel group is one that I'm going to talk about a lot in this. I think it's their best personnel group because it gives them the legit ability to run the ball because these two tight ends are good blockers. Well, this is Zach Ertz, but Ben Sinnott, when he's in there, and John Bates give them two legit good blockers, and they can overpower guys in the run game, especially when you add in the threat of Jaden Daniels. But they can also still pass the ball well and get some good matchups. And Cliff has been using this really well to get some good matchups. So, as I say, 3rd and short, you got 12 personnel. Ravens respond with I think it's a big nickel defense, so there's an extra safety rather than an extra corner. And you just run a basic mesh concept. So you got a shallow cross here, you got a shallow cross here, tight end sitting over the middle, and they run the running back wheel down the sideline here. And what happens is you get your two tight ends breaking over the middle of the field. That creates a lot of traffic for this defender here trying to stay with Eckler running down the sideline. Jaden Daniels immediately looks out here and he waits to see if this corner is going to attach to, I think that's Ertz, or if he's going to sink out into the zone. He attaches, and Daniels knows I've got Austin Eckler, and I've got all this space to work with. So nice read and nice play by Daniels, but really nice design by Cliff Kingsbury with that 21 personnel. And again, you can see it here. This is the guy there. They're really putting in a bind here. You got your two tight ends creating a bunch of traffic for him, and Eckler's going to run away from him, and he's really late to recognize it. And by the time he recognizes it, he's nowhere in the picture, and Eckler's gone 25 yards down the field. So nice design. Now, another thing that I really wanted to highlight was their use of play action. We saw last week the Browns did a really nice job of setting up to stop the run, and in particular Jaden Daniels on read option, but also just the run game in general. And Washington's kind of answer to that last week was Jaden Daniels was able to scramble around and create some things off script. This is a much more sustainable answer to that, because the Ravens kind of set up to do the same thing. You can see that we're in a single high coverage here, extra safety down in the box, so we're loaded up to try to stop the run. And that was something the Ravens set out to do because they saw the Browns had some success with that. Knowing that if they can take away this run game, they can take away the easy stuff and stop Jaden Daniels' threat as a runner, they would make him have to beat them as a passer. So they went to play action, and we've got that same 12 personnel. You got your tight end in here, second tight end Sinnott here. You're going to pull the guards, and this is going to look like their counter scheme because Sinnott's going to go early, and he's going to look like he's blocking and work out to the flat. And then you got your guard pulling as your second puller. So it's going to look like their normal counter scheme stuff that they do from this look, which helps sell the play action. But you're going to have this deep over here, and you're going to have a deep post on the backside. And essentially, at that point for Jaden Daniels, it's a question of does the safety attach to this deep over, and then you can hit the post behind it, or does he sink back and you can hit the deep over? And on this one, Daniels is going to roll out slightly, faking a little bit of a bootleg, and then pull up nicely. And you can see we've got Noah Brown coming back across on this kind of throwback deep over. And you can see here that this defender has got his back turned to Noah Brown. He's got no idea what's happening here. He's worried about, I think this is Terry McLaurin running deep down here. So that's going to create this nice big window for Noah Brown to break into. And Jaden Daniels fires a nice ball over the middle down the field.
They missed Noah Brown the week before, didn't they?
They did. I think the other guys filled in pretty well, but Noah Brown is a guy I really like. I like him more than most, and I think he's a really, really good part of this offense. He's a really good blocker as well, but he's a really physical receiver. He's exactly what they're looking for, a receiver. And on these kind of play action stuff, he's a real big threat. And then we saw that in this game. He caught quite a few of these play action deep shots. So, and this is another one. This time it's out of 11 personnel, but you're getting the same kind of idea. This time Zach Ertz is running the deep over. You got a go route by Dyami Brown on the outside. Terry McLaurin's going to run a deep over as well, and you're going to get these guys kind of crossing over. They're using Zacchaeus as kind of a misdirection here. He's going to line up in the backfield, motion out to the flat, run a little fake screen, and that's just to try to grab guys' attention and open up stuff down the field. So we'll run this one through, and you'll see again, nicely designed play action. You get Zach Ertz running underneath this crosser, running underneath McLaurin. In theory, you might say you could throw this one out here and trust McLaurin to go get it, but with the safety over the top, and you've got this defender coming through ready to land a pretty big hit on Jaden Daniels, I very much like his decision to go with Zach Ertz here. And we'll see from the end zone angle, he does a really, really nice job sliding slightly to his right to buy himself just that little bit of extra time. Because McNichols has got a tough job here. He's got to execute that play action fake and then try to get back to this blitzing linebacker. I think it's Roquan Smith. And he does enough to clip him and delay him, but he doesn't get enough of him to knock him over. So Jaden Daniels gets to the top of his drop here, and Ertz hasn't quite made his break. So Daniels does a nice little subtle slide to the right just to buy himself an extra yard, gives Ertz chance to get open, and delivers a really nice ball, takes a hit to do it. Perfect throw again, and Ertz is on his way.
To the left side of the field as well.
Yeah, for everyone that says he can't throw left.
Yeah, which is just weird. Like that was probably my second favorite throw of his. I don't think anything is going to beat the first play to Ertz, but like you saw again in college, and even really in week one, that when he saw that sort of stuff, he was just gonna scramble. He was gonna take off and scramble. So for him to kind of understand where the blitz is coming from, where your protection is weak, to kind of understand that, give yourself just a little bit enough of time, know that the play is going to be open because of that. And yeah, again, high level quarterback stuff from a rookie. Yep.
And so continuing with the play action stuff, and I thought Cliff did a really nice job of kind of almost showing the whole playbook of play action stuff that they can do. So this is another 12 personnel play action. You got your both tight ends. It's the same look as what we saw on, I think, the first play action, but this time, instead of running a little counter scheme, you've got Sinnott's going to chip on the edge, and he's going to release to the flat as a check down. I think this is Bates is going to just block the edge, and the running back's going to fake a run and release to the flat instead of the tight end. And then what you're going to have here is the play off of the play action we saw earlier. So you got a deep post on this side from Dyami Brown, I think it is, and then on this side you got Terry McLaurin, who is going to fake running that deep over, and instead of breaking across the middle, he's going to sit it down. And this is a really nice counter to the one we saw earlier, because when you hit that deep over enough times, these safeties that are deep are going to get frustrated and they're going to try to bite up on it. And that's when you can throw this deep shot in behind it. But sometimes they get aggressive and attack this side, and you can sit it down and then break it back outside and get some nice gains. So it's just a nice variation that they have in the playbook. And you can see this defender here is waiting for McLaurin to break his route over the middle and cut it off. And McLaurin just sits it down. And it's a really nice variation that they have. And Daniels hits it nicely. And it's another chunk play, another first down.
As good as Biadasz has been snapping the ball, because they live in that shotgun pistol type area, I've been equally as impressed with Jayden Daniels under center, because I guess I just didn't realize he could do it. That he was in gun, I think, all the time at LSU. So I've been pretty impressed with how he's been under center for, again, a rookie guy.
Yeah, they've gone under center a little bit more than I thought they would, but they've done a nice job of mixing in pistol stuff, which we'll get to a little bit of pistol stuff, and obviously they use a lot of gun, but they've mixed in under center stuff, and they've been willing to go under center, especially with these play action stuff. So it's been a good mix, and Daniels has not had any issues so far. Touch wood on that continues, but yeah, so far it's been good. So this is another play action scheme. This time they switch it up. So we've seen everything being attacking the middle of the field. So this time Cliff goes with a sail concept, and you have, I think this is Zacchaeus running this little fake orbit motion thing and then breaks out to the flat. That's all window dressing eye candy to get guys out to the flat. You've got, I think it's Dyami Brown again, running a deep post. And the main part of this is you've got Zach Ertz running this sail route. And you're going to see the defense is so used to Washington attacking the middle of the field that they're all going to play for Ertz breaking inside, and that's going to leave him wide open as he breaks outside. Again, 12 personnel, 2 tight ends. Tight end on the backside is going to chip and then release as a shallow as a late option. You can see Zacchaeus as the flat option. With all that backfield action, he gets eyes on him early, and that forces this defender to come out to the flat and respect that check down option, which is good. You'll see why. You got Dyami Brown running deep post, and he's got these 2 defenders both worried about getting back to the middle of the field and covering him deep. And what you see that creates is this big lane between this corner out here and this defender in the flat, which leaves a huge void for Zach Ertz to break outside. Now you can see, as I talked about, the Ravens were expecting guys to break over the middle because that's where all the play action stuff we've shown so far has been going. So you can see this linebacker is ready to run with Ertz inside, and he gets a little bit surprised as Ertz breaks outside, and that just creates the window, and Daniels hits him, and another decent throw to his left.
In terms of defensively, like if you go back to the sideline view, this is such a tough concept to defend for these 2 corners for 32 and 21 here. In an ideal world, again, it's really, really tough. Like Mark was saying, Roquan's going to cover, I think that's Roquan. He's going to cover the inside route. 21, and again, in an ideal world, should be able to peel off and take this. But again, it's such a tough ask for him to kind of run stride for stride with this receiver and then peel off and take that out route. So just a great play design here to kind of, again, even if he plays this perfectly, it's open. Like, I mean, it's just such a tough thing to defend for him to do. But yeah, great play design.
And we'll just see from this end zone angle again what I've been talking about, where they're so ready for them to attack the middle of the field. You can see Roquan here. He's anticipating Ertz breaking over the middle. And so when he cuts back outside, he's just a little bit late to get there. I mean, it's a tough route to defend anyway, but it's just a really nice design, and it's a nice complement to the play action stuff they've been doing.
They were attacking Roquan.
He had Bates wide open over the middle too.
Yeah, it was really effective. They did a lot of nice play action stuff. And this is the last play action one I wanted to look at. It leads me into another topic I wanted to cover quickly. But this is out of 21 personnel, or 21 pony, a lot of people call this, where you've got 2 running backs that rather than a running back and a fullback, which would be your traditional 21 personnel, you've got two running backs in Ekeler and McNichols. So it's known as 21 pony. But you've got that same sort of play action concept we saw and we have been looking at. You've got your deep post out here. You've got your deep over from Noah Brown here. You've got these two guys in the backfield just to create more misdirection. And you got McNichols, rather than having a second tight end here, chip and release, McNichols is going to do that. Eckler's going to run out to the flat on this side as more just check down option and stuff. And so what that enables with Ekeler going out to the flat this way, what we'd seen had been a tight end chipping and then releasing to the flat as a check down. But because the Ekeler is going to be out there, Zach Ertz is able to chip and then release inside to the middle of the field. So it gives them another extra option in the middle of the field, which when we get to it, you'll see. Noah Brown is getting Roquan Smith and the safety, and all these guys are worried about this route coming over the middle of the field, and they're worried about this route deep because that's what we've seen 3 or 4 times now. And so what that leaves is a void underneath for Zach Ertz to spot up underneath and look at this space that he's going to have. And I know we talked about no yak Zach, but when you've got 10 yards,
right, if he didn't get a first down here, we would have to have a serious conversation.
So he even makes a guy miss. So yeah, it's just I thought it was some really nice play action design, and it was really nice complementing each other. It wasn't just the same play action over and over again. It was different personnel groups. It was different variations. It was playing one off of another, and it was a really, really good way of attacking the fact that the Ravens were so aggressive on trying to stop the run.
Can you go back to that end zone real quick? Just want to kind of highlight Cornelius Lucas here because it's a sick block.
Yep.
By the left tackle.
Lucas, left tackle.
Even though people want Brandon Coleman. Oh, okay. Never mind. It was chipped. Never mind.
It's chipped.
Ignore it. Damn. I thought he snatched him.
Hey, Big Corn's still been good all year, whether that play showed it or not.
He's been great. I kind of feel bad for him that he doesn't get more snaps, but Coleman's been good too, so it's weird. But I thought we had a little nice snatch there. We didn't.
I would have never in a million years thought the rotating left tackle thing would have worked, but I'm not a head coach in the NFL. That's right.
So yeah, I touched on a little bit on the last play with the 21 pony personnel that they've been using. It's a package that Cliff has been really, really creative with, and this has been his most creative. And so we see it here. You've got the 21 personnel, you got your one tight end, you got your 2 receivers outside, and you got your 2 running backs. And Eckler's going to be the fullback on this case, and McNichols is going to be the running back. And this is the flea flicker screen. So initially, Eckler's going to come across and act like a fullback and block the edge rusher on this side. And McNichols is going to actually take the handoff up in the middle. So you'll see it here. McNichols takes the handoff up the middle and then immediately pitches it back to Jaden Daniels. And so that gets these linebackers to bite up. Now, I think McNichols, it's both good and bad what he does here. He gives this back immediately. He doesn't take an extra step to get these guys to bite up.
He gets spooked by the corner blitz and is like, oh, no, I got to throw this.
But I think it works in his favor as well, because what it does is when he pitches it back so early, he gets these guys to go, okay, this is a flea flicker. We need to bail out and get back into our coverage and make sure they're not hitting something over the top of us. And what that does is obviously clear out space out here for Ekeler to release. And so what you're going to see, and we see it better from the end zone angle, but Eckler's going to initially block this defender, and then he's going to peel off, and McNichols is going to pick him up. And you see Tyler Biotish kind of comes out here and loops out here and leads the way for him. So yeah, you've got all these defenders that are vacating space, trying to get back, and you've only got one guy that's read it. I'd imagine it's Roquan Smith. I can't tell from this angle, but I imagine it is. But you've got Tyler Biotish for him, and you've got Austin Ekeler in a bunch of space, and Biotish does a nice job on Roquan, and Eckler's off to the races. So yeah, you'll see it here from this angle. So Eckler's going to come across and block this guy. McNichols is going to get the pitch, throw it back, and you'll see this defender thinks he's just beaten Eckler's block really easily, and that's why McNichols is coming across. So he has zero suspicion that Ekeler is actually peeling off to take this screen. Nice job from Daniels adjusting, and Ekeler. Biotish does a great job getting out in front. And
at that point, Roquan's screwed. I mean,
yes,
he should technically have outside contain, but you're just screwed there. Like you you have no chance.
If I wasn't paralyzed, I would have jumped out of my chair when they threw that thing. I don't think I've ever seen the flea flicker screen before.
I was almost paralyzed once I saw this play in the next one, back to back.
This is the fake tunnel.
Yeah, this one
Yeah.
was, to pull it back to back is kind of ballsy, and I love it.
Yeah. So again, it's that same 21 pony personnel. They're able to get lined up really quickly. They don't have to huddle. The Ravens can't change out of it. And this time they have so much misdirection going on here that it's almost impossible for it to not work. You've got, first we'll start with the run up front. You've got the guard tackle counter or GT counter, which is simply a counter scheme, but rather than just having a pulling guard and a tight end, you pull the guard to kick out, and then you got the right tackle coming with him to wrap around. And so that's one of Cliff Kingsbury's favorite run schemes, and they ran it a few times in this game.
Sorry to jump in, and to set, they were running a ton of this RPO counter as well, where they just had that backside screen on the RPO, so that he was kind of already sort of setting this stuff up.
Yeah. And so you've got the threat of that with McNichols taking it. You've also obviously got the threat of Daniels potentially reading this guy on the edge and running himself. He's going to send Eckler in motion out to the flat, and then Eckler's going to turn that into what looks like a swing screen. And you've got, I think this is Luke McCaffrey possibly, or De'Ami Brown here, going to block this defender. Terry McLaurin's going to take a step forward, and he's going to get the defense all to flow over the top, trying to get to Eckler on this screen, and he's going to peel back inside. It's such a nice design. So we'll see it play out here. Again, here's the handoff. You've got the guys pulling. You've got all these defenders having to think, is this ball going out here to the screen, or is this going to be a run? You've got this defender having to worry about, is Daniels going to pull it and run himself, or is he going to hand it off? What's happening? He pulls the ball, and now you've got all these defenders worried about this swing screen, and so they're not even looking back at Jaden Daniels. They're looking at getting outside and covering Eckler possibly running down the sideline, and that allows McLaurin to suddenly peel back inside, and suddenly you've got this nice big hole in the defense here, and Daniels hits it. Offensive linemen do a good job getting out in front of it as well, giving McLaurin some blockers to get in front of, and just a really, really nice design, and to call it when he did. You can see all these defenders are confused where exactly the ball's going, and you've just got this nice lane for McLaurin to work into.
And again, Roquan screwed.
Yeah, and that's one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Right. They've made him look silly on a few of these plays. Yeah. So it's
if you go back to the sideline view, this is what I kind of love about football and like figuring out this sort of X's and O stuff. Like I kind of touched on the split flow stuff that the Ravens were doing, where you get the whole defense flowing one way and then you cut it back the other way. It's essentially what this is, just in screen version, and you get the whole defense flowing towards the swing route by Eckler, and then you get him cutting back the other way, and now you've got linebackers out of position, and it's the easiest 10 yards that you're going to get.
Yep. Now, I think we're low on time, so I don't know if we'll get to these last two, but these last two, I just really like these designs. They didn't hit very well, but they're run plays. They're pistol diamond formation, so you got 12 personnel again. You've got two tight ends in the backfield acting as fullbacks. You got Austin Eckler behind Jaden Daniels. It's the same GT counter scheme we were just talking about, and this time Jaden Daniels is going to read the defender on the edge, and basically he can either hand this ball off to Eckler inside, and they'll have a nice look to run into, or if he keeps it, he's going to have not just one guy arcing around this unblocked defender. He'll have two tight ends arcing around him to lead Daniels to the edge. And now, unfortunately, I don't necessarily think Daniels reads this wrong. I think he gets spooked by this defender attacking the mesh point so aggressively. So if he hands this off, you've got Wiley ready to wrap around and seal this edge, and you've got a big lane emerging for Austin Eckler to run. Now, I can understand why he kind of got spooked and thought this guy was coming down and he could wrap around him. But I think this should be a handoff read, and he misses it. And so he kind of makes up for himself and tries to go inside rather than around his blockers. And you can see how effective that would be, because you've got Noah Brown on a receiver out here. You've got John Bates, I think this is, and you've got Ben Sinnott here. You've got potentially three blockers out in front of him, but he just gets the read wrong, and then has to go inside of the defender that he should have just been handing it off. And you can see here, Eckler is running through this lane and he has all this open field to run into. And unfortunately, Daniels gets caught up with. You see it from the end zone angle again here. But what I liked is that, that lane for Eckler was huge.
Yes.
We will. I'll pause
Yeah,
it
it's
on
silly.
that.
Just silly.
Man, I can't believe Jay Daniels made a mistake.
That's right.
But yeah, you can see here, you've got Andrew Wiley ready to block the linebacker here, and you've got the kick out here, and you've got that nice lane for Eckler. If Daniels reads this right and hands this off, it's a big run, and it's Eckler one-on-one with a safety. Unfortunately, he doesn't. But what I liked is that Cliff wasn't deterred by that. He went right back to it. Well, I didn't say he went right back to it. He went back to it later in the game. And this time it didn't quite hit as nicely. But I still really like the scheme. I just think it's a really nicely designed scheme. It's the exact same play. Your guard tackle counter. You got your diamond pistol formation with 2 tight ends arcing around. You're reading the defensive end, and Daniels can either pull it or hand it off. This time, the defensive end gives a much clearer read. He kind of holds his spot. And so Daniels hands this off. Now, if you get a slightly nicer block, Austin Eckler probably makes this into a big gain. They still get 5 yards out of it. But Andrew Wiley doesn't quite get breaching this defender. He kind of gets stood up a little bit, and then that kind of delays Eckler. If Wiley had sealed him off a little bit better, Eckler could have hit that full speed, and he would have been attacking that safety at full speed, and that could have turned it into a really big hit. But it was just a nice run scheme that I think we'll see some more of, and I think with that diamond pistol look that we saw on those 2 plays with the 2 tight ends and 12 personnel, I think you can build off of that into some really, really nice play action schemes. And we talked about how play action was a real nice way of getting the Ravens out of their run heavy defense and attacking and exploiting that. I think that's something to keep an eye on going forward the next few weeks.
I'm curious, the system that they're running, the offensive line has been remarkably better this year. Even guys that were here last year, like Wiley. How much of that is a credit to Bobby Johnson and the coaching that he's brought, and how much of it is the scheme that kind of helps guys out? Because I remember listening to Chris Forrester one time about where you allocate your resources, and he always said, I'd rather allocate them to wide receivers, guys that can get explosive, because I can make up for just above average offensive line play with the things that we can do. What is the ratio of coaching to scheme on this thing this year?
I can take this because I got killed for offensive line stuff last year. But I think you see the difference in, like, this is the difference in like coaching and good quarterback play is sacks are very much a quarterback stat. I know some people don't believe so, but there's a lot of luck that goes into sacks. There just is. Like you saw one of Lamar Jackson's sacks was somebody got literally thrown to the ground, picked back. He got himself back up and made the tackle just because Lamar's running around forever. So there's very much dependent on quarterback play. Jaden has done a great job of managing those sacks, which again was a concern coming out of college. But it's also scheme related. Like when you have this heavy play action stuff, it's harder for defenders to kind of go full in on pass rush stuff. They're also kind of not putting themselves in scenarios where you would be rushing the passer all the time. Washington lived in third and 10, second and 10 last year. So you're going to have guys that are just going to pin their ears back and rush the passer. They don't have to do that as much this year. So that it's kind of a mix of both, but I think the guys are still the same guys they were. I just think the scheme definitely helps, and it just looks better for the fans now that the offensive line just kind of seems a little bit better, but I don't know if they're necessarily playing that much better.
Yeah, I'd just jump on that quickly is that I would say a huge part of it is the scheme, in that last year they were basically not running the ball at all. There was no effort to do any play action passes. It was quick game and drop back passing. And that was pretty much it. So that gave them like 40 or 50 opportunities a game to be exposed in pass protection.
You're passing the ball, dropping back like 70 times, and 50 of those are like no play action, just straight 7-step drop. It's a problem.
So that's what this scheme has done really well, is they run the ball well, obviously, and the addition of Jaden Daniels helps that. But they've been using different personnel. They bring in 2 tight ends. We saw on all of those play actions, they really helped with the tight ends chipping, or if it wasn't a tight end, it was a running back chipping. They've been paying a lot of attention to detail to helping the edge players, especially. So like Myles Garrett last week, they had everyone chipping him. They had Luke McCaffrey and Zacchaeus at points were chipping Myles Garrett to help on the edge, and they had tight ends chipping, they had backs chipping. Everyone's been playing a role in chipping on the edge and helping the offensive line out. And then, you bring in these schemes where you're making the defense have to be wary of run game and play action. Suddenly it becomes a lot easier, and it limits the amount of times you're just doing pure drop back passing. And that limits the exposure of, a guy like Andrew Wiley that last year looked not great because he was having to try to drop back pass protect against the best edge rushers 40 or 50 times a game. And now he's having
You're never going to look good. Like, you're just
no.
And no one's saying Wiley is now all of a sudden great. It's just like, this is who he has always been. And I don't know if you guys have heard, my dog's been crying here for a long time. So
it's a pet-friendly show.
Yeah, he has been sitting there crying the entire time. So,
well, look, let's get out of here like this. First of all, thank you to the 781 of you that watched live with us today. You can find all of Nick's work at pff.com. Nick, what else you got coming up this week?
It's funny because I'm actually writing I just finished writing an article about Drake May, so not Washington related at all. But they're going crazy, so we're gonna have to end this.
That's fine. And of course, subscribe to the Substack, Mark Bullock Substack. Fellows, we'll get you out of here. Thank you so much as always. Appreciate you.